Hello everybody, and welcome to our special edition of Book Chat for Black History Month. So every year here at Southfield Public Library, we put up our posters of distinguished African Americans throughout history. And for this special book chat, we picked 4 different posters to talk about, 4 different people. And we're going to share some books with you that we have in our collection. I hope you enjoy learning about these fascinating historical figures, and enjoy.
Octavia Butler was a renowned African-American author and the first science fiction writer to receive the MacArthur Fellowship, a grant given to individuals showing exceptional creativity in their work. In a field dominated by white men, Octavia Butler demonstrated that African-American women could successfully inhabit the worlds of science fiction. However, she refused to let either herself or her writings be solely defined by her race or gender. Her dystopian novels explore themes of Black injustice, global warming, women's rights, and political disparity. At the time of her death in 2006, interest in Butler's novels began to rise, and in recent years, sales of her books have increased dramatically. Butler published 15 novels and short story collections in her lifetime, earned 2 Nebula Awards and 2 Hugo Awards, both esteemed recognitions in publishing. One of her best-known books, Kindred, is used as a teaching text in colleges and universities across the country. Her novel, Dawn, is currently being developed for television, and in fact, Dawn is the book we're reading for this month's virtual sci-fi fantasy book club. So if you have read Dawn and you're interested in discussing it, please join us for our Zoom meeting on February 17th. You can find all the details on our website. If you're a fan of Octavia Butler or you'd like to learn more about her, I recommend this book called Strange Matings by Rebecca Holden and Nisi Shaw. The book is an anthology. It's a collection of interviews, poems, essays, and journal entries, all pertaining to Octavia Butler and her works. Read the whole thing or only those chapters that interest you. There is much to glean from this book. I'll end by sharing my favorite tidbit about Octavia Butler, which is that she did not consider herself to be a science fiction writer. She considered herself to be a storyteller. So thank you, Octavia Butler, for inspiring new generations of writers, activists, and storytellers.
Hi everybody, so for this segment I'm going to talk about the wonderful Edna Lewis. Edna Lewis is best known as the chef who brought the elements of Southern cooking to all of America and really all of the world. She was born in 1916 in Freetown, Virginia. She had a very interesting start to her career. Before becoming a chef, she moved to New York City and became a successful dressmaker, and she actually made a dress for Marilyn Monroe. However, in 1948, she did take on her first official chef position. She opened up a restaurant with her friend in New York City. This restaurant was very popular amongst artists and writers and was known to be frequented by people such as William Faulkner, Tennessee Williams, Marlon Brando, Truman Capote, Gloria Vanderbilt, Eleanor Roosevelt, and many, many more. Her first cookbook was published in 1972, and we do have it here in the library. It's called the Edna Lewis Cookbook, but the book I really want to talk about today is her book that was her second published cookbook in 1976. It's called The Taste of Country Cooking. In it, Edna recounts her childhood growing up in Freetown. The town had been founded by her grandfather. He was an emancipated slave, and he found the town with some other emancipated slaves as well. It was a very tight-knit farming community where everyone looked out for each other. And I have to say, they ate very delicious food. The recipes in this book look truly delicious. Once you're reading it, you can easily sense the level of expertise and knowledge that Edna had with this food. And one of the notable things about this book and Edna's cooking in general is its emphasis on fresh ingredients. Since Edna grew up on a farm, her family ate the freshest meat, dairy, and vegetables available. They raised their livestock with a lot of care, and she describes how the taste of the meat is so different from what she gets in stores. So she goes through each season and describes the meals her family ate and how they ate them. Another element worth mentioning is how in this book, Edna really shares the experience of what it meant to live with the memory of slavery and what it means to be an African American at this time in history. She recounts holidays such as Revival Week and Emancipation Day, explaining what it meant to her community and how they celebrated through their food. It really is a great book that I cannot recommend enough. If you are interested in learning more, we have a third book on Edna Lewis here in the library. It's a book on essays. It was written by many of her peers, They discuss their own experiences with her, her important contributions to the food world, and the legacy that she left behind. So give us a call if you're interested in any of these titles, and I hope you guys get to learn more about Edna Lewis.
Sidney Poitier was best known as an American actor for his roles in films like A Raisin in the Sun, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, To Sir with Love, and In the Heat of the Night. Most notably, he was the first Black man to be nominated for the Best Actor Academy Award for his role in The Defiant Ones, and the first Black man to win Best Actor for his role in Lilies of the Field in 1964. He is also a Golden Globe winner, a Grammy winner, a SAG Lifetime Achievement recipient, an Emmy nominee, a Tony nominee, and more. In 1974, Queen Elizabeth granted him an honorary knighthood, and in 2009 he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom from then-President Barack Obama. In addition to acting, Sidney Poitier also directed 9 films throughout his career. He also served for 10 years as an ambassador of the Bahamas, where he spent his childhood until moving to Miami at the age of 15. He died earlier this year in January 2022. Sidney Poitier was a trailblazer for diversity in Hollywood, but in the 50s and 60s, he was one of the only prominent Black actors. He worked to pave a road for others to follow. Many of his memorable roles dealt with race in the mainstream. For example, in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, he played opposite Katherine Houghton as an interracial couple in a time where some states still prohibited interracial marriage. He was a civil rights activist both on and off screen. Sidney Poitier also wrote 3 autobiographies, 2 of which we have here on the shelf at Southfield: The Measure of a Man and Life Beyond Measure. And you may not know, he wrote a science fiction novel in 2013 called Montaro Kane. The novel follows MIT student Montaro Kane on his quest to discover the origins of 2 mysterious coins that aren't made of earthly materials. These coins are more valuable than Kane can imagine, which begins a battle with scientists, thieves, and collectors all vying to possess the coins. This book is both philosophical commentary and suspenseful metaphysical science. It's a page-turner, and it explores race, faith, and the meaning of our lives on Earth. To close, I'd like to quote Sidney Poitier. He said, "I think about death, but I'm not fearful of it. I've reduced the concept of my existence by saying, I truly, truly try to be better tomorrow than I was today. And I mean better as simply a better human being, not a better actor, not a better anything, but just a better human being. That will please me well. And when I die, I will not be afraid of having lived."
Bell Hooks, from the time she was born in 1952 to when she died just this past year in 2021, could lay claim to many different titles and many different accomplishments. These include the author of over 40 books, a professor who taught at several different institutions, including Yale, Stanford, and the City College of New York, as well as perhaps most notably a social activist working in the domain of feminism and in particular intersectionality. And this project involved many different things, most notably for Hooks herself, examining the relationships between imperialism, white supremacy, capitalism, and patriarchy, kind of lumping all of those together and understanding the unique experiences held by different people living under these systems that come together in that way. So examining the unique experiences of Black women and how they're marginalized, or colonial subjects in many parts of the world, to name a couple of examples. And this also involves coming to an understanding of both structural racism, how racism is embedded in certain institutions, as well as how racism is internalized and experienced on an individual level, and how people relate to that in a myriad of different ways. So she very effectively touches on these practical, most often political topics, but also engages with many different things, such as art, spirituality, mass media, and so on. But I think one thing that really sets her apart in the Black radical tradition in which she emerged was her continued and persistent emphasis on love and compassion and healing as a kind of foundation for her work, for her theoretical and her practical work in a lot of ways, and how people can reconcile terrible experiences under white supremacy, under capitalism, under patriarchal systems, and learn to still love themselves in the process. I think that was a very unique contribution of hers. And that really shines through in many of her works, which we have in our collection, including Teaching Community, A Pedagogy of Hope, in which she attempts to understand our educational system through this filter of intersectionality and imagines what an anti-racist pedagogy might look like. Rock My Soul, Black People and Self-Esteem, in which she approaches the topic of self-help and the topic, of course, as the title suggests, of self-esteem and how that is experienced by Black and African American individuals in particular. And finally, All About Love, New Visions, a collection of essays in which, again, this very critical topic of love is touched on and explored in many different ways, how love is experienced interpersonally between people and in so many different respects.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Book Chat. All of the books we've mentioned are available for checkout. Just give us a call or stop by to browse. If you'd like to see more of our Black History Month posters, they will be on display for the rest of the month. The posters are hanging throughout the library building, so please stop by to spend some time looking at them.